Welcome everybody to Lore and Pour, the only lore show you need in your lives. I'm just kidding. We're probably going to have another lore show called Lore and Snore by the time this episode goes out. So you need two, but this is 50% of them, so that's something. Hey, tonight we have got a very special guest because we have got the creator of not one, not two, not three, not four, not five, not six, not seven, not eight, but all 9 of the hells. That's right. We have got Girunduu himself here with us. Girunduu, thank you so much for stopping by.
Well, it's a pleasure to be here, Adam. But if I may, just a slight correction. I'm not actually the creator of the 9 hells. I am Professor Gerald Rundu of the Unseen University. I hold the position of the chair of extraplanar geography. I have visited and documented the true experience that is to be found in the 9 hells. I've travelled there myself. Obviously, I am not a cleric or anything like that. I'm not even a good person. So I had to harvest the souls of several hundred nuns in order to create an aura of good to protect myself as I travelled through the 9 hells. But surely the documentation that I provided is the finest and foremost in all the land.
What was it? Gerald Undu?
Professor Gerald Rundu. Yes, that's right.
Yeah. Your agent said you created them.
Well,
that's all right. We should be able to.
I certainly created the popular perception of the 9 hells through my work, but it was an academic exercise, as I say, and those several hundred nuns' sacrifice should not be taken in vain.
Definitely not. I just might have a follow-up email for your agent after this. But while we've got you here, it sounds like you're still one of the leading experts on the topic, so that's fantastic. Before we get started, like every episode of Lore and Pour, I do need to just ask, what are we drinking tonight?
Well, I was drinking beer previously. Well, now I'm on Polish honey liqueur. It's delightful. Tastes of honey. And only slightly later do you feel the deleterious effects of its full 38% ABV. It's delightful.
And then, of course, as always, for here, it is the Kettle One and Diet Mountain Dew monstrosity called the Dirty Dew. So, Girunduu, obviously, I'm going to love to dive in and really do like a layer by layer overview of all 9 layers of hell. But first,
it's like an exciting cake.
It's like the best cake if you're not good.
If you like magma.
Before we do that, though, I think it's only wise for us to start at the beginning. So, how and why, perhaps, were the 9 hells created?
Well, they're essentially a manifestation of lawful evil. They exist. The hells need to exist as a cosmological function due to the presence of such a concept of lawful evilness in the world. Who could say truly when they were created? The archaeological evidence was scant on my expedition, certainly, but. As far as I understand it, the hells just simply need to exist as part of the overarching cosmology of the universe. The concept of lawful evil, which is manifested in many ways, such as through strict enforcement of parking and traffic enforcement, minor offences, perhaps playing music slightly too loud in the late afternoon on a Sunday. That's the kind of thing that lawful evil beings really get off on, is the inflictment of just nuisances, really. But as I say, as long as there are people in the multiverse who ascribe to that sort of thing, and I'm sure you know many petty people like that in your own personal life, then a plane for that must exist. So, it's just something that has to exist given the nature of humanoid beings in the multiverse.
So, why 9 of them though? It seems like, I don't know. 10 seems like it would have been a nice even number, or 8.
10 or 8 obviously would be nice, even numbers, but I mean, by the very nature of hell, I mean, it is odd. It is outside of conventional human experience. We do like our little jokes here in the Unseen University. But yes, there are 9 hells basically because everybody says there are. There are transitional places between hells, but it's more or less, you have individual layers ruled by certain petty squabbly individuals who, maintain that there are 9 just for purely sort of tradition reasons, really. You
mentioned leaders of these layers. Are they like, what kind of people are leading it? Are they like demons?
No, my dear sweet boy, no. Demons, you see, they live in the abyss, which is where the chaotic evil things live. Now, devils is what you would look for within the hells. Asmodeus is the overall ruler of the 9 hells, and is manifest generally as a gentleman with large horns. He is quite personable if caught at the right time. As I say, I was encased in a aura of good energy projected by the souls of 700 nuns at the time, so he could not approach me directly. But we had a pleasant conversation, and he seemed perfectly reasonable, living as he did in Nessus at the 9th and very bottom layer of the hells. But yes, you can find all manner of creatures that you would associate with devils, really, sort of hags, hellhounds, that kind of thing.
But, Professor, I associate demons with devils. Are they not friends?
No, you see, they are not friends. They are not friends at all. You see, what they were subject to is something called the Blood War, which has essentially happened throughout the eons and is a consistent declaration of war between the forces of lawful evil and chaotic evil. Because, you see, cosmology is not so simple as being simply good and evil. We have the forces of law and chaos within those, as I'm sure you're aware.
Oh, and which ones are the demons and which ones are the devils?
Demons are chaotic and devils are lawful, but they are both evil.
So it sounds like if I had to choose to run into one, probably devil? As long as I'm not, like, speeding?
Well, let's put it this way. So a demon might decide to make a musical instrument out of your entrails, or it might sing you a song, or it'd be a very terrible song that would be a pain to listen to, but it would do bad things to you. The degree of badness would depend entirely on what mood it was in at the time. The lawful evil creature, the devil, if you will, operates under a principle of it's a more ordered system of cause and effect. However, they take great, as I mentioned previously, they take great delight in enforcing very minor, negligible laws just to cause discomfort wherever they can, really. But they do it at least according to their own sort of defined code.
Whoa, well, I mean, I feel like we could probably do a whole episode on devils and demons now, but obviously, while I've got you, the leading expert on the 9 layers of hell, I think it only makes sense that we have to go just layer by layer and do a chat about, each of them in quick, overview. So I think we start at the top. Is the top the best or the worst?
Well, I mean, it's all relative, isn't it? Your top layer of hell is, of course, Avernus. And Avernus is, it kind of looks, at first inspection, you would think that J.R. Tolkien had cribbed from my work somewhat when he was describing Mordor, sort of like a blasted black landscape accessible through the astral plane, of course, which I know we've had some previous experts in discussing that very topic. You can arrive through colour pools and the like, but it resembles a sort of rocky, blasted sort of landscape. It's the entry level of hell. It is not all that bad, all things considered. parking, as I say, is extremely overpriced, and you would be well advised to take the park and ride from the colour pool into central Avernus rather than trying to drive. Certainly we had many problems. There are very many bicycle routes, of course, but they are littered with decaying human corpses.
You mentioned earlier about various leaders in the Nine Hells. Does like each lair have a council of leaders, or is it like a democracy? Or
not really. I mean, as you would expect within a hell. I mean, well, certainly through our own bitter experience, we can see that democracy can, of course, resemble hell at times. No, each individual layer is more or less a petty fiefdom overruled by an archdevil, so extremely powerful malign entity of lawful evil. As I say, the ninth hell is presided over by Asmodeus. This is the only one really worth remembering because he's the boss of them all. They consistently scheme and plot and assassinate each other throughout the nine hells, and it's a jolly good thing that they do because they're bastards, frankly.
So who's the current leader of the first layer of hell, and what do they look like?
It's been some time since I've been there. I think the last fellow who was there was named Terry.
Terry, and was Terry like a dude devil or like a horse?
Well,
horse devil.
He was not a horse devil. He was, from the waist down, he resembled something like a slug.
Oh, just waist down.
No, yes. I mean, he proceeded by slithering along on his very slimy belly. From the waist up, though, he was something more akin to a man and a tarantula, a manantula.
That sounds like a pretty terrible combination.
It was unpleasant to look at, but he had a very good taste in easily listening records. He would croon away to some Barry Manilow while he was pulling the legs off some poor sod who just arrived there. But as I say, quite personable, as long as you're encased within the collected goodwill of 700 nuns.
Before we go on to layer 2 from this amazing cake, I've got this kind of recurring question I'm just curious about on all the layers, is just what was like the coolest feature you saw while you're there? Maybe the coolest like hot spot to hang out, or something that looked really cool, or like a cool person. Well,
there was the Iron City of Dis, which is in the second layer, coincidentally. Now, Dis is more sort of a suburb, really, of hell. The Iron City was actually, presented with sort of extremely good opportunities for shopping. I found the facilities rather good. The ceaseless screams of the tormented and imprisoned did somewhat mar the experience. But as I say, I was overall quite impressed with the city of Iron in Dis.
And that's in the second layer, you said?
That's right, Dis, yes.
And what's kind of the characteristics of Dis? What's it look like?
Ceaseless lamentation of tormented souls. Certainly large areas of it are quite prison-y.
Yeah.
But as I say, they really do have some fantastic boutiques. You can find really good deals on some handmade knickknacks. I myself bought a lamp made out of a living human skull, which I called Raphael, and we talk long into the night. Well, I say we talk. He just screams unintelligibly until I switch him off. But I enjoy it.
Did that cost a lot, or was it like pretty cheap in that area?
Well, I came furnished with the finger bones of some saints, which I was able to trade. Finger bones of saints are actually relatively common. There's all kinds of saints buried all over the place. Perhaps not so much in North America, but if you were able to travel to Europe, I'm sure you could go to any old church and dig up a few bones. You'd be able to trade those for with a suitably convincing story and a bit of provenance. You could sell pretty much anything to a devil.
So was it like one bone for one lamp, or what was like the exchange rate?
No, it was
finger bones and lamps.
It was 3 finger bones, but they were from 2 different fingers. So each finger, as you know, contains sort of three bones, independent bones. So I got a cheeky little deal with a little bit extra thrown in with some with a little brimstone charm. It smells awful, but I thought it would make a good present, perhaps for my mother-in-law.
Yeah, I mean, I think you were right on that first part of that statement about it smelling awful, but I'll take your word for it. So in Dis, the second one.
I think, I frankly, I don't think they're much bothered. People can't really tell. It's difficult to carry a conversation, I will say that. The heavy metal music is rather good within the City of Iron, as you would expect. It's somewhat cliche of a name. But other than that, beyond the overwhelming volume of 1980s heavy metal, and the screaming of the ceaseless screaming of the tormented, it's quite difficult to hold a conversation. So Dis or Dis, as long as you say the D at the beginning, most people will be able to lip read what you're saying.
Did we mention who's the leader of that lair?
I honestly can't remember. I was quite drunk through most of my time there. From what I recall, it was some sort of insectoid, snake-faced leopard man, but I could be wrong. That might just have been my...
I'll take your word for that. Dropping down a layer to layer number 3, I'm looking at this time, Professor. And I'm worried about getting through 9 layers. We've got so much information.
Oh, what a shame.
I may have bit off more than I can chew with this interview. This is,
well, I'll have to get more drunk and come back another time.
I think we can do it. Let's see. I don't know. This 3rd layer, what does it look like?
The 3rd layer is Minoros, and it is a large swamp filled with decaying bodies and the scent of despair. Broken only by volcanic rock formations that would jut from the swamp. There is a city there, a citadel that rises from the swamp. It fell over into the swamp. A funny story, they tried to build it once, it fell over into the swamp. They built it again, it fell in the swamp again, and then they built the 3rd castle. That one burned down, fell over, then sank into the swamp. But the 4th one stayed up, and that is the city that is there currently in Minoros. The city is also called Minoros, by the way.
Oh, well, it sounds like this is the stinkiest of the layers so far.
It is rather rotten, yes. I suspect rather that it's been used as something of a dumping ground for corpses.
Do you happen to know the name of the person who's in charge of this layer? The stinky layer?
I didn't stay long enough to meet who was in charge, but
I
can only
wouldn't
imagine
either.
that they have a severe personal hygiene problem.
Yep, well, again, I was going to ask, like, what's a cool place to go there, but it sounds like there's no cool places in that one.
The exit is probably the coolest place that you can go there.
The exit right down to the 4th layer?
The 4th layer, yes.
And that, of course, is
Phlegethos.
That sounds like a mouthful.
It is. It's. I'm sure that's Greek. However, it is what it would fit the most sort of stereotypical notion of hell, the fiery hell. It's all magma and volcanoes and random fireballs exploding all over the place. It's very sort of affiliated with the sort of planes of fire that you might also travel to and be quite confused that they might be hell, but they're not. They're rather similar, but this is the most stereotypical version of hell, the fiery hell.
This is the fire one, the bad burning one.
The bad burning fiery bastard. Yes, that's the one.
And who's the leader of this one?
Bombastic Francis, rather a larger lady who's very jolly, except she enjoys.
Cool.
Yeah, she's pretty good. She enjoys a nice barbecue. I mean, you might end up toasted on a fork in a pit of burning fire forever. But as I say, if you've sacrificed several hundred nuns and you're powered
good.
by their good aura, then you've got a free pass. Enjoy the ribs.
Something cool here, other than this person's barbecue?
Well, as I say, the barbecue is fantastic. But if you are not in the mood for barbecue, you can get a pizza diavolo, which is, a really nice, refreshing change of pace. You just take a little left at the first set of funeral pyres, and you will see just a little Italian trattoria on a piazza there. It's beautiful. I would really recommend.
Official Italian pizza.
Absolutely. I would recommend spending an afternoon there, perhaps with having a coffee and just doing a bit of people watching.
And then getting out of there before you get barbecued on a fork.
Well, I mean, yes, but
unless you've sacrificed the 700 nuns.
Exactly. You must have access to these sort of things if you're going to explore hells.
Yeah. Did those nuns? Did they volunteer as tribute so that you could go and get all this information?
I'm not going to answer that question because the Vatican has been sending me letters non-stop. And quite frankly, it's rather a bore for me now.
Then we'll just drop right down in that hole down to the next layer. I'm sure that's how the travel works, right? A big hole, you just jump down to get down to the next layer?
Essentially, I mean, you just keep digging around these layers until you find a cavern or an iron door or an impassable boulder or a dog with too many heads. It's all that kind of jimbo-jambo. I think they mainly do it for the tourists. The next layer, though, the next layer is quite different, and it illustrates the point that I believe they do it for the tourists, which is, of course, Cold Land, aka Stygia, which is a frozen icescape, frozen sea interspersed with jutting, tremendous icebergs. It's extremely cold and unpleasant, and, wrap up warm, bring a jumper, that sort of thing.
So it's an entire ocean world, but with sheets of ice on the top?
Essentially, it's cold as balls. Yes, it's really. I mean, if you're into skiing, there might be something for you there. But really, I mean, equipment hire is very expensive, and it didn't seem worth it to me. I was running low on Saint New relics.
Finger bones.
That's right, yes, finger bones. I had a jawbone, but who wants to break a jawbone for a pair of skis? I mean, really.
Yeah, you need to find something worth the entire jawbone.
Absolutely,
just two halves or a half.
And so someone sees me carrying a jawbone around, I'm liable to get mugged.
So who'd want to be the leader of this big icy shithole? Pardon my language, I don't like the cold at all.
No, well, I mean, you certainly wouldn't like this cold. I mean, it ran as low as, I believe, about minus 60 degrees centigrade. It was very, very cold. It was a Norwegian fellow named Rasmussen.
Okay, well, so far, he's probably my least favorite because...
I don't think he was even dead, I think he was just the only person who could be bothered to stay there.
just somebody who really likes skiing a lot.
Yes, he was, as I say, perfectly reasonable Norwegian fellow for all it seemed. Rather taken with the aquavit, but yes, a pleasant fellow. We just moved on before we got frostbite.
So yeah, if you swam down in that ocean, went down to that 6th layer, what layer would you find?
Malbolge.
Malbolge
is the 6th layer. Really nothing much to write home about here. It seemed more like an industrial area to me.
You hate to see that.
Nothing much of interest for the casual, tourist.
It's kind of like it's like when you go somewhere, off on vacation, and say like me as an American, like going somewhere and seeing like a McDonald's. Like I wouldn't go eat at a McDonald's. I would walk right past it, and just keep going to the next one.
It's more like if you were just to, you take the family on a nice holiday and you end up driving around a dilapidated steel mill. It's just not worth it.
You just keep going to the next town.
Yeah, you just go. You're like.
Did you even find out who the leader was or anything? Or
I didn't. I'll be honest with you, because I don't sully myself with manual labor, and I didn't see the point in hanging around to talk to people who do.
So dropping down then, if you just fucking drove your minivan, your Honda Odyssey, right on through the 6th layer and got to the 7th, what would we find there?
Maladomini. This is another layer, it really seems like it was probably quite fancy some time ago. It's gone somewhat to the dogs now, but there are, still some remarkable feats of architecture you can see around the place. Particularly the public library. All the books, of course, are about torture and fire, and some of them bite you when you try and read them. It's really an exciting day out for all the family. Watch those children's fingers, though, because, of course, they aren't worth any money like those of a saint.
No, you gotta be a sainthood, yeah. And then, so if you just jump into one of those reading rainbow fantasy books and climb on down to the 8th level, what are we looking at there?
We're looking at Kanya, which is another rather cold...
shucks. 2 cold places?
I'm afraid so, but you are rather spoiled for choice with hot places in
That's true.
There are seven rather warm...
I guess it is a good change of pace.
So, for some time. I mean, this hell is more, rather than a frozen sea, is more sort of... an extremely cold sort of like forest. Something like that, Like actual tundra, not like a mountain top, or that kind of thing.
So we need to get the Norwegian guy down to this one, because it's probably much better skiing.
I mean, one would think, but he seems perfectly content to just be out there with his aquavit. So
hey, maybe he really likes water skiing, and it's just that's why he hangs out there.
He's just waiting for the thaw. One day it'll melt. And he'll be there. He'll be the first person there with the swan boats.
He sits bare butt cheeks on different parts of the ice and just tries to melt them quickly.
To each their own. Yes, this is more for like roughy tufty. It's like a park area, I suppose you might describe it as, where the more well-to-do denizens of the Nine Hells might come to walk their multi-headed dogs.
Okay, who's did you get the name of this person? This good devil?
Yes, it was. What was it now? I met him briefly as I was picking a flower which was made out of what looked to be a femur wrapped in barbed wire, and he stopped me and said, "Dude, you look awfully like a fellow I went to school with." And I said, "I'm sorry. Do you know, I'm sorry. I didn't go to school in hell. I've just come from outside." We had a good laugh about it. And what was his name? Johnny Bastard. That was it.
Johnny Bastard.
Johnny Bastard, yes, he was... what a laughable misunderstanding. But yes, a fine fellow, and the ruler, of course, of the 8th hell.
So it sounds like, what did Johnny Bastard's house look like? Is it just like a little shitty house, or like a big?
Well, it was sort of like it was like a mock Tudor semi-detached. So it was rather nice. A 2-car drive, a crazy paving on the walk up to the door there, and it was nice off-street parking. rather modest, but we went into his kitchen. I must say it was very well appointed. A breakfast bar and a Keurig. We had a little capsule coffee and
wow, Keurig, an eighth layer of hell. It's gotta be pricey.
So you wouldn't believe. I mean, the real estate prices. Absolutely.
So it sounds like with him being, was it a him?
I mean, I didn't.
Or just a big.
I didn't really see their genitals. I mean, to be honest with you, I couldn't really look at Johnny Bastard. To try and comprehend his form blasted my mind somewhat, and it really took 2 or 3 cups of Keurig coffee to restore me back to normal.
But, I mean, it sounds like you probably had a pretty decent and pretty long conversation with Johnny Bastard.
I probably did. I mean, by the time the 3rd cup of coffee hit, I really needed to make my excuses and leave because I was going to make a real mess of his toilet.
But, I mean, with Johnny Bastard being on layer 8 and there only being 9 layers of hell, was Johnny Bastard... Was he ambitious and wanting to, like, somehow... You know, he's 1 layer away from being the king of it all. Did he talk to you about any, like, schemes or machinations of, like, taking over and becoming the leader?
He talked a big game. He did talk a big game. But at the end of the day, and he admitted this to me himself, he said, my name is just not as cool as Asmodeus.
It's
and at
not.
the end of the day, that's just not going to win me the support I'm going to need to form a coup. So I said, well, maybe you should consider changing your name from Johnny Bastard to something slightly more classically intimidating.
It's a devil, right? They're all good about law, and they can write up a form and get it legally changed.
I said, we can, look at the classics and Beelzebul, Belial, maybe something with a B. I mean, you've got the bastard there. I mean, Bastardion or something like that. You could pass that off as being, something classically inspired.
Bonnie, no.
Well, I mean, I'll pass you his address, and perhaps you could.
I don't want it.
Okay, well, I mean, your loss is a rather good correspondent, and you might get some recipes for chili that'll really knock your socks off. But yes, as I said, Bastardion was my suggestion. But as I said, I really need to make my excuses because after 3 cups of hell coffee, my bowels were really quite ready to evacuate.
So did you go down to layer 9 and take a big old Keurig poop?
I did on the way, yes. I mean,
wait, on the way, like on platform 8 3/4?
It wasn't intentional. As I was shitting down the rope ladder, something just sort of shook loose. Fortunately, I was wearing rather baggy chinos, so I just managed to slip it out the leg, and we just climbed down without incident.
And, of course, obviously, you climbed down and landed in layer number 9, which we all know the name is
Nessus.
Do I even want to ask what Nessus looks like?
Nessus looks like a industrial goth club circa 1998.
Okay, so lots of volcanoes.
I mean, there are some volcanoes, but really it looks like a nightclub, a rather run-down nightclub with strobing lights and thumping industrial music. And a lot of people who look like they've watched The Matrix too many times.
And we already found out that this one is led by the one, the only Asmodeus himself. Did you you did say that you got a chance to meet Asmodeus. How was it?
I did. I was in the VIP, because no fucker could touch me, surrounded as I was by the goodly aura of 700 deceased nuns. And yes, I demanded bottle service, as you do. I think he was rather taken with the cut of my jib, and we sat and chatted for a while. He was a very handsome chap, in some sort of red silk affair. Large ram's horns, and I said, well, we all know what rams are good for, don't we? Ramming. He said, you vulgar shit. I said, well, I'm surrounded by the good aura of 700 nuns. Come at me, you bastard. And he laughed. The bouncers tried. They were incinerated. Bathed in golden light. Oh God, those nuns. They'd really saved my bacon.
That really sounds like it was actually a pretty fun hang.
It was excellent, and all it cost was the lives of 700 nuns, which, in my book, is a small price to pay for my personal enjoyment.
That sounds like a pretty good price for getting to visit all 9 of the hells. Was there like any place in the 9th layer that really stuck out to you, other than, was it just one nightclub, a really big one?
It's like, I mean, the only thing I could really compare it to in the conventional world would be one of the super clubs in Ibiza. It really is just like, seems like it goes on forever, except it's full of really dour-faced devil types and
not demons, right? No demons, in there.
No, I mean, I nearly slipped myself there. I can see why the layman might make that error, but no devils, sour-faced devils. They all striving to get into the VIP. The drinks are rather watered down and overpriced, but you know, really, that's what the hell experience is in a nutshell. And if you don't visit Nessus and brave the VIP section, then what's the point in going to hell at all?
Yeah, I feel like if you made it, especially if you make it past like layer 3, you may as well buckle up and make it all the way down to 9.
Well, I mean, if you don't want to be mistaken for the casual tourist, I mean, you'll want to delve further than Stygia in the first place. I mean, really. Malbolge, as I say, despite being a industrial heartland of the hells, is really where, you know, in the next 10 years, I'm sure that it would be a very well-developed area, because hell tourism is only going to increase, and as we can see by current events in the world, there are plenty of people queuing up to get in, so by now, it would be my advice.
By now, yeah, it's only going to go up from here, especially after this episode releases and people find out how cool it is down there. So thank you so much, Professor, for joining us. I know you're probably extremely busy with different appearances and interviews, so thanks for taking the time out for this lowly podcast and joining us here. When you're not delving deeper into the layers of the 9 hells, where can people find you at?
You can find me every alternate Wednesday on Dice Talk with the very talented and lovely Jeremy Fair. You can find me every other alternate Wednesday on Shitty Cowboys as John Ballard Pendergrass on your podcast feed. And every Wednesday that Shitty Cowboys drops as a podcast, we will record the following episode live on Twitch that Saturday. You can also find me as Silas Lancaster on Roll for Weird, also dropping on Fridays on your pod feeds. And you can finally find me as Flex Gristle, resuming every Monday night on the Majestic Goose Network with my good close friend Razor McGirth on Modrus Bloodsport Association.
Yeah, and if this is the first show on the Majestic Goose Network you found, then welcome aboard.
Thanks.
Thank you. Yeah. Thanks for sticking with us to, I believe this should be episode 4 as of recording, at least. It was the 4th episode. But yeah, we don't just do this show. We've got a lot of other really cool shows on the network. So you can just search for majesticgoose.com. or follow us on Twitch at Majestic Goose, Twitter at Goose Majestic, or on YouTube at youtube.com/Majestic Goose. And just majesticgoose.com will find all the information you need about all of our shows. We are currently adding, I guess by the time this one goes live, we should have a few more up. We will, within the month of this episode going out, we will have a total of 12 shows, counting podcast and or Twitch series. So a lot of content, all tabletop related. So go check it all out. And thanks for listening. So we will see you all down. I I don't even know what the next episode we're going to be dropping is. It's probably going to be a one-shot onslaught or a halfway heroes tomorrow, because this show, I believe, is going out on Mondays. So thank you all, and thank you so much, Professor, for joining. We will talk to y'all later. Oh, join our Discord too, bit.ly/one-shot Discord.
Bye.
See you guys. See you, everybody.
Honk.
Honk. A Majestic Goose Podcast.
Honk.